Hi guys, it's Marc Zicree, Mr. Sci-Fi, Marc Zicree of Space Command! And I'm here back in the Zicree mansion, and we are launching a Kickstarter campaign for money for post for Space Command's second hour. We just delivered the first half hour of Space Command to our backers. We're sending them off to our investors. We screened it at Comic-Con to great acclaim. We had signings there with Doug Jones, and Mike Harney was there from Orange is the New Black. He's in our cast as well. We announced that Gigi Edgley is going to be in Space Command. I'm currently talking to Nichelle Nichols about being in Space Command. There's a lot of great stuff ahead. So anyone, if you haven't pledged already, anyone who's pledged previously will be sent a link to the first half hour and you can watch it. If you haven't pledged to Space Command, you just can go to the new campaign Space Command Redemption on Kickstarter and you can pledge, and you can get a link immediately to watch the first half hour with Doug Jones of Shape of Water and Star Trek Discovery, Mira Furlan and Bill Mumy, and Bruce Boxleitner of Babylon 5, and Mike Harney of Orange is the New Black, as I said, and Robert Picardo of Star Trek Voyager and Stargate Atlantis. So it's quite wonderful, and I'm very proud of it, and we're continuing to move forward on visual effects and post-production on the second half hour, and we're basically going to be finishing the second hour of the 2-hour pilot for all of our fans. Meantime, I'm pitching the show. We're going to be shooting more of the second 2-hour story, Space Command Forgiveness. In November, we shot 40 minutes of it with Ferran Tahir of Elysium and JJ's Star Trek and Iron Man and so forth, and James Hong of Big Trouble in Little China and Blade Runner. And, you know, essentially we're just continuing to raise money so we can finish and so we can continue getting the material to you. If and when we sell it as a show, then we'll have money. we can deliver things a lot faster. When I was a producer on Sliders, I didn't have to raise $44 million. They just gave it to us. But they also, you know, could sing the tune that we had danced to. Now, fortunately, we were given a lot of free rein on that fourth seasons of Sliders, and I'm very proud of what we did. But with Space Command, if I had gone to the networks and gotten a pilot deal, they could have cut me off at script, they could have cut me off at pilot. Also, if I'd said I want Doug Jones for one of the leads, they would have said, who's that? And they would have said, no, we don't want him. We want someone who can't act, who was just on the CW or whatever. And now, of course, everyone knows who Doug Jones is. I mean, I think it's fairly remarkable with Space Command that without a studio or a network, we have in one of our lead roles an actor who was the lead male role in the Best Picture Oscar-winning film of this year, and also one of the leads in Star Trek Discovery. And yet in Space Command, you not only see his face and hear his voice, because you didn't hear his voice in Shape of Water, and you don't see his real face in either Star Trek Discovery or Shape of Water, but you see him in all of his wonderful, wonderful, sensitive face and expressiveness in Space Command. And you get to see scenes with him and Robert Picardo together. These are two actors from different generations of Star Trek, never worked together as far as I know, and they're wonderful together. And Mira Furlan and Bill Mumy and Bruce Boxleitner had not worked together since Babylon 5, and here they're reunited. So I'm very proud of what we've done. In terms of the half hour, there's still glitches, there's still things we're sanding down and perfecting. And but that's because we're in a very direct creative dialogue with you, our fans, and our audience, and you're making this happen. It's funny because I was thinking about, you know, imperfections even in some of our favorite films, and I made a little bit of a list just to let you know, because we're, you know, in terms of, because some of the fans are saying, well, there's this thing and that thing. I mean, most of the people watching it are absolutely loving it, which is very, very gratifying. But a few have said, well, there's this little imperfection, that little imperfection. Well, yeah, well, we're going to work on them and we're going to correct them. It all takes money, and we're working on it. I mean, we've just been, you know, cooking on it. And people here in the States and in Germany and in Russia, VFX artists in all of those places, and our sound team, our composer, everything, everyone. And but here's some glitches from well-known films and well-known TV shows to show that we're not alone in having little imperfections. First of all, 2001, one of my favorite films, when he's you know, sipping his dinner through a straw, Haywood Floyd on the moon ship. You can see the liquid goes back down the straw, even though it's supposed to be a weightless environment. So even Kubrick could have little slips like that. In Star Wars, in the original version of Star Wars, one of the stormtroopers hits his head on the top of a door, entering through a doorway. That's been corrected via computer-generated effects now, but if you'd seen the original, there it was. In terms of Terminator 2, originally semi that Schwarzenegger was chasing the kid in lands after a leap, and its axle breaks, and then in the next shot the axle is fine. Again, that's been corrected in recent times. And and Charlie X, Star Trek, at one point Kirk enters a turbo lift on the Enterprise with Charlie X, and he comes out on the bridge in a completely different uniform. And in Star Trek the motion picture, when it originally was made and shown in theaters, the shuttlecraft lands in San Francisco, and it's just not quite right in its registration on the track. There were all sorts of glitches because they really had to deliver that before it was completed, really. And my favorite glitch or imperfection is in North by Northwest, one of the great films, where in the cafeteria of Mount Rushmore, Eva Marie Saint has a purse, and she's going to pull a gun out of it and shoot Cary Grant. And just before she pulls out the gun, a kid, one of the extras in the background, ostensibly eating in the cafeteria, puts his fingers in his ears. And you can see that. Most of these glitches have been fixed subsequently in recent times. I think that one's still in North by Northwest. But just to let you know that we will be fixing anything that pops for you. And if you let us know, we're on it. So, but again, this is because this is the new relationship between the creator and the audience, where it's very direct, it's transparent. You see all the struggles along the way and all the challenges, and we share it with you, and you get to be part of it. And many of our fans are working with us on Space Command. People all around the world are giving me emotional support. They're buying shares in Space Command at $7,500 each, or they can put money into Patreon, or they can pledge on the Kickstarter campaign. We've sent off photos and lobby cards and trading cards and patches, and we're about to send off the Space Command watches and the Space Command models. And now we have a Space Command shop on Shopify. So if you go to shopify.com/Space Command, you'll find it. And so these are all things where we're working together on this. We're making it happen because a network might not have wanted to do the hopeful vision of the future that we wanted to do. And if you watch Orville, and if you watch Star Trek Discovery, they're admirable in many ways, but Star Trek Discovery has a kind of hard-edgedness, a kind of, I won't say cynicism, but I mean, they use the F word, and if you're watching with your kids, that's not too cool. And Orville has dick jokes, and again, if you're watching with your kids, not too cool. Space Command is a very realistic view of our world projected into the future, but it also is something that you can enjoy with your kids. And I had breakfast the other day at Comic-Con with one of the executives from the BBC who oversees Doctor Who, and he was talking about wanting to do shows that are upbeat and positive and that the whole family can enjoy. And my friend Ron DeMont, who's one of our investors, flew in for Comic-Con for our panel, and I took our investors to dinner, and he was talking about how much he loves sitting down with his daughter in England and watching Doctor Who and having that as something they can share. And I think that that's something that will be true of Space Command as well. So anyway, so that's it for now. Tell your friends about our campaign. If you go to Kickstarter, Space Command Redemption, you can find it, you can pledge, and that moves the line ever further, ever forward to getting the first 2 hours to our fans and our audience. And you can watch the first half hour now. We're also posting our Comic-Con panel. You can watch that, and you can see just the spirit and the energy that we're all bringing to this. So that's it for now. Thanks very much for everything you do and are, and we'll talk again real soon. Bye-bye.